Coming to you direct from Silencer Shop Studios, home of the Glass Case of Emotion.
SilencerShop.com, the easiest way to buy silencers online, period.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markel.
Yeah, let's see if we remember how to do this here. It's been a while since we've been inside the Glass Case of Emotions. And thank you. Man, I tell you what, Jared, I was looking at my stack of cards. I was looking at all the photographs. I was looking at all the posts on social media. And you know what occurred to me?
What?
That there are so many people to thank and acknowledge that if I start...
We would have to spend the rest of the week thanking people.
We would spend the whole show thanking Cubby, Roy, Annette, and maybe I'd say your name. But no, actually, we had a very, very productive, valuable, enjoyable, I'm coming up with adjectives here, stressful, tiring.
Yeah.
No, our trip up to Louisville or Louisville, depending on where you live, for the NRA's annual meeting and exhibits was very beneficial to us. We're glad that we did it. It was a long trip. I mean, we had 4 people in a car. We left Biloxi, Mississippi on Wednesday morning and got into Louisville that evening around 10 o'clock or 11, something like that. It's about a 12-hour trip, especially since we had to cross over the international date line between the Central Time and the Eastern Time. But we did it. Louisville, I really like you with one exception, asterisk. Your traffic blows,
yeah,
and you need to stop that. They need to, I don't know, excommunicate about 10,000, 20,000 people out of that city. Maybe 30,000, I don't know. But I kind of knew that was going to happen coming up there, but how many of you listening to me right now got stuck in Friday morning's traffic trying to get into the NRA show? And you're like, what? Yeah, somebody wasn't quite thinking, I have to believe, because they tried to funneled the traffic for the airport, the traffic for the amusement park, and the traffic for the NRA meetings. They were trying to funnel all of those vehicles into the same off-ramp. And I guess on a normal day, when there's nothing going on at the Expo Center, the Kentucky Expo Center and Fairgrounds, that's probably okay. But when you have 70 to 80,000 extra people there because of the NRA show, plus the airport traffic, plus the traffic that was going over to the Fairgrounds amusement park. What do they call it? It used to be Six Flags, and now it's called something else.
I didn't actually see the name of it.
It's like Six Flags over Kentucky, or the Kentucky. It's now called the Kentucky Amusement Park and Roller Coaster Rides.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Friday morning was a bit of a nut roll, if you will. But getting around Friday morning, it was okay. I was actually pretty shocked. I've been going to the NRA annual meetings on and off for 10 years plus now, and I can tell you this: I was there in Louisville in 2008 for the NRA meeting, and it was busy, but nowhere, not even close to what it was this last weekend. And normally on a Friday morning, the traffic is mild. The crowd is mild. It's not huge, but because let's face it, most people that are within driving distance that didn't fly in or make a special trip, if they're just going to drive over for the day, most people in America, they work on Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And then their plan is like, okay, we're going to get up early Saturday morning. We'll drive over and we'll go in. We'll spend the day at the show. Good. So usually the only people that are there early Friday morning are the ones who flew in. And generally for an NRA annual meeting, the people that actually take off time off of work, I mean, besides the vendors and and the manufacturers, but
that
the visitors
count as time off work.
Yeah, that is work. But the visitors, generally Friday morning, it's kind of mild. Now there are people that'll take off like after lunch. That's usually kind of typical. People will come in the afternoon. But Friday morning, there were so many people. People were there. They had arrived. They were stacked up at the doors, hundreds, thousands deep. And there were so many people. When we got there, we got there late. We weren't there when the doors opened.
It took us about 15 minutes to get from our hotel to the traffic, and then about 2 hours to get from the traffic about 1 mile to the convention center.
Yeah, it was. I could have got out and just hiked in.
Some people did that. Did you see?
They just got out and walked in and left one person behind the wheel to park the car.
Yep.
That's mean. But I was told when I got there that they actually opened the doors early because there were so many people stacked up at the doors waiting for them to open at 9 a.m. that they actually opened them early and let people in.
That's pretty cool.
They didn't do that on Sunday, did they, Jared?
No,
they didn't.
They did not.
Saturday was Friday was busy. Saturday was off the hook.
It was insane.
It was insane. But let me tell you a little bit. Let me tell you a story. I was on Mark Walter's show on Monday. Mark Walter's Armed American Radio, and he said, "We
2 days ago, Monday."
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, I was.
Interesting.
I was on that show.
Yeah.
Well, I texted Mark and I was like, "Hey, man, it was good to see you. Hope you had a safe trip home." And he texted me back. He goes, "Why don't you jump on the show at the bottom of the hour?"
Yeah.
Today. This is like 90 minutes or an hour before the show aired. And I said, "Okay, cool." So I called him and he said, "Well, what were your impressions of the show? What?" And my impression was this. And I'll tell you guys this as well. I mentioned it. People say, "Well, what did you see? Did you see, what have you seen that was exciting or cool or interesting or neat or whatever, hardware-wise?" And I wasn't there for hardware. I was there for people. I go to the NRA show because I want to see people. That's my goal. My goal is to see people, to talk to people, to communicate with people, to see old friends, to make new acquaintances, and so forth. And the toys come last, or they come second. I mean, it's always good to go in and say, "Hey, they got the new what's-its." I mean, that's cool. But that's not – I don't need to travel all the way to Louisville to pick up a whatever, flat dark earth, flat olive drab OD dark earth Glock Model 44. I mean, I can do that any other time. And the people there were thousands upon – I don't know what the final – the exposition hall was huge, was enormous. And despite the fact that at any given time there were quite literally thousands upon thousands of people on that floor going in and out of the doors, using the restrooms, using the restaurant facilities, using everything. Despite that fact, and how do how humans are. If you've ever been crowded into a line at an airport, crowded into a line at a concert venue, crowded into a line anywhere, people get annoyed, they get angry, they get PO'd. I mean, I was PO'd a little bit. Not a lot, but every once in a while you get that moment. Jared, I don't know if you experienced this as well as me, but my experience was, despite the crowding, despite the elbow to elbow in some of the aisles to get down the, to get through the aisles to see people, despite all that, people were friendly. They were polite. They held doors for each other. They smiled at each other. They were just well-mannered individuals who also happened to be armed. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of the people on that floor. And now obviously there were way more people. There were some people open carrying, and that's cool. But the vast majority of people were concealed carrying. But dudes, this is where the other side just doesn't get it. They just don't get it because they don't want to get it. They're heavy into cognitive dissonance, and you guys know what that means, right?
Yeah.
You know, cognitive.
Were
Do
you
I need
talking
to
to me?
define
Oh.
cognitive dissonance for the
maybe
audience?
for some the new listeners.
Well, I tell you what. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and we're going to acknowledge. A break from talking about NRA, and we're going to go ahead. Well, it's Wednesday, so what does that mean? Well, it means we have to do a SWAT Fuel Fitness Talk on a Wednesday, and I know you guys are you're getting a little bit antsy in your pantsy because you know what day it is, and you want to hear the super special music. But before we do that, let's thank our friends at Crossbreed Holsters, the makers of the Super Tuck Deluxe, also known as the Bruce Jenner Commemorative, and the new Gideon Pocket Holster. Now, is a Gideon Pocket Holster for your gun? No, it's actually for a spare magazine. Remember we talked about this? Yeah, we did. So they named it officially at the NRA show.
If you were on Crossbreed's email list, then you got a notification while we were at the show that everybody got 20% off for the NRA show weekend. 20% off everything from Crossbreed. So
wow, so you should be on their list. Frog Lube, it's extreme. And thank you for everyone. To everyone who walked by the Frog Lube booth and yelled extreme while we were at the
Larry's
show.
probably like, why are these, what?
Extreme. Century Arms, the sweetest smelling arms maker in the U.S. of A. And we're going to be talking more about Century Arms and some of their new upcoming products as time unfolds. But let's go ahead and King Julian he's waiting. He's over there. He's a little antsy in his pantsy. And
Yeah, I want to take a moment to remind everybody about the 41F. You guys need to get in your stuff to Silencer Shop before July 6th. So there's two separate dates. There's actually three, but July 6th, if you get it in there by July 6th, you'll be fine. And you can find out everything you need to know about the new 41F regulation and the Powered by Silencer Shop guarantee at silencershop.com. And it's going to be pretty they've got a pretty big announcement that they're going to make coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. All right, last week I talked about priorities, and you're going to need to listen to that episode. If you didn't yet, then go to SOTG 384. I believe that's the number of the episode, where I talk about having priorities and why they're important. And this week I'm going to talk about consistency and being consistent with those priorities. If you have a priority, and let's say your priority is to get up every morning at 5 o'clock and work out, and you're not consistent with that priority, then it's not a priority. I don't understand how people can say, hey, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they don't every single morning or every other morning or whatever they commit themselves to. And then how is that a priority? So be consistent with your priorities. Consistency is key to success in pretty much everything in life. As you guys saw in the 7 training tips that could save your life, Dad talked about, I think the very first thing was actually talking about consistency and how that is the key to success at the range.
Well, absolutely. The key to success, anybody can do it once in a while, regardless of what your field of endeavor is, whether it's shooting or anything. It doesn't matter. Everybody can accidentally hit the bullseye. I mean, but that's not the point. And as far as shooting is concerned, Jared, how many times have we said we don't practice until we can hit the target? We practice until we're incapable of missing. And you say, that doesn't make any sense. No, it actually is. It does make sense. We do it. Consistency allows you to perform on demand. Whether you're tired, whether you're annoyed, whether you haven't done it in a while, what have you. When you're consistent with your efforts, that builds character and it builds neuromuscular pathways. But my point is this: you need to be consistent with yourself. And, Jared, I think we just touched on something that probably we didn't expect to touch on. But consistency is the key to being a reliable and trusted human being.
Yeah. I was just about to go into that part of the be a man or a woman of your word. If you can't trust yourself to be a man or a woman of your word, if you can't do what you say you're going to do for yourself, then how do you expect other people to say, to trust your word when you say, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Exactly. People watch you. People pay attention to you. And especially if you're one of our students of the gun, people will say, well, what am I supposed to do, Paul? I work with these people or my relatives or my friends or whatever, and they don't get it. They just don't get it, or they don't want to get it. Well, whether you know it or not, those people are watching you, and they're paying attention to you. And what they're looking for is they're looking for leadership, and they're watching your example, and they may not ever even admit it. They may not even voice it. But the fact is, they're looking at you, and they're like, okay, because you preach to them. You preach liberty, and you preach freedom, and you preach Second Amendment rights and Constitution and personal responsibility. You preach all of that stuff to them, or at least in earshot. And then they watch you, and they're like, okay, Mr. Freedom, Liberty, Independence preacher, I'm going to watch you. I'm going to see how you act. And if you behave in an inconsistent manner, then they're like, this guy's just full of crap. One day he says one thing, next day he says another thing. So, consistency.
Yeah, I was just say I'm guilty of doing that sometimes, where I'll be in the shop and I'm like, and I see something he's done, I'm like, I need to do that, and then I say that, and then I don't do it because there's so much other stuff that I have to do. But priorities.
Yeah, it goes back to priorities as well.
So I go down my list of priorities, and if it's not, but if I get down my list of priorities and then I still have time to do something, then I need to do that thing that I just said I'm going to do.
All right, let's talk. For all of you who are new listeners to Student of the Gun, and I know you're out there. I know you are. I can see you. You didn't know that, did you? But I can. Cognitive dissonance. Now, according to the Merriam-Webster official definition, cognitive dissonance is the state of being inconsistent, the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. Now you say, what in the farfignugan does that mean? Well, cognitive dissonance, this is the problem that people on the left, the progressives, have. They're infected with it. When you approach them with facts, when you say, hey, Mr. Every Town for Gun Safety, and guns cause violence, and handgun violence associated or incorporated, or the Center to Stop Handgun Violence, because apparently handguns in and of themselves are violent. When you approach them, you say, you preach that guns make people more violent, and that guns are not the answer, and that guns are a problem, and blah, 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 blah. But the evidence I'm going to show you is that we had 70 to 80,000 armed people all packed into one big building, and there wasn't one incident of violence. There wasn't one single incident of gun violence. The guns didn't jump out of the holsters and start killing people. People didn't go wacko in the food line because it was, 37 people deep, start shooting each other over chairs and because they couldn't get to the bathroom or couldn't get. None of that happened. And you say, that's just one incident. You say, okay, then you can go back to the instances of reduced violent crime. You can go, all of that, but you present them with the facts. Fact. And they won't change their mind. They won't accept it. They won't listen to you. Why is that? Because they've already decided. They already have decided what is what. Their minds are closed. They experience cognitive dissonance. It will not allow them to accept reality because their reality is what they've created in their sick and twisted minds. So, folks, we all are affected at certain points by this. For instance, the volunteer EMT Bravos, we've been dealing with that for how long, Jared? 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, 8 years. Well, a long time. Yeah. Way back. Well, how long have I been down here?
8
2007.
Years? Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
9. So 9 years. Wow. At very least, because I started banging the drum pretty hard about, traumatic medical training, and so forth. And despite the evidence, okay, the U.S. Army did a 3-year study of tourniquet use in the field, and they found that not one single instance they couldn't find one single instance where the application of a tourniquet caused the amputation of a limb. Now, there were other reasons. It was all hamburgered up and blown up and, bad things happened to it. But out of a 3-year study, the Army could not find one single incident where the tourniquet was the cause of an amputation. And that's a long study, and that's a lot of tourniquet uses. We're not talking about a couple. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of combat-related injuries. We're also talking about the fact that in the United States of America, we're seeing today police officers saving their own lives, saving the lives of their compatriots, saving the lives of victims of violent attacks. And we see that coast to coast, northeast, southeast, so forth. And it's piling up. The evidence is starting to pile up. And yet we still, despite the evidence, despite the studies, despite the reports, despite all of it, despite the fact that in the Tactical Medics Bible, the PHTLS, right? It's PHTLS, right?
Yeah.
Pre-hospital trauma life-saving life support. Despite the fact that in there it says that the rapid application of a tourniquet reduces the chance and likelihood of irreversible shock and has not been demonstrated to cause loss of limb and so on and so forth. Despite all of that, we still I went to EMT school in 1982, and I've been a volunteer EMT Bravo ever since, and I don't think blah, blah, blah. I don't believe. I don't blah, blah, blah. Bros, sisters, you got to get with it. Why do they still do that? Well, I don't know. I don't know if I believe. Why don't you believe it? Because you've already made the decision despite the evidence. Jared, I see in my show notes it says, thank Joe Terrell for sharing the show with your friends.
Yes. Thank you, Joe, for sharing the show with your friends. And everybody that can hear my voice right now should be sharing the show with at least one person. I know that one person that needs to hear this.
Well, there you go.
And Joe is doing a very good job of that, so I wanted to thank him.
Well, thank you, Joe. And let's talk about we kind of went off the road. We're not talking about the NRA show anymore. But where do we go? Who do we thank? Well, everyone. All of our sponsors. We spent time in all of their booths. And most of you, or at least a lot of you, if you couldn't make it this year, well, maybe you're in the South or Southeast or what have you, and you can make it to Atlanta next year. I would highly recommend that. I understand that if you're in Washington, a trip to the East Coast is prohibitive. But the fact of the matter is, if you are east of the Mississippi, you really have no excuse not to get to an NRA annual meeting. And we had people that flew in and drove in from west of the Mississippi. So what's your excuse? It's a priorities thing, huh, Jared?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to. Oh, okay. That's cool. But one of the places where we were, now this is Student of the Gun Radio that you're listening to, in case you didn't notice. They're like, what? This is Student of the Gun Radio? Yes, it is. Now, one of our sponsors is, High Point Firearms. We have several sponsors for both the radio and the television show. And I've known Charlie Brown and Kelly and all the guys and Dave and the guys over there at High Point Firearms. I've known them for
a long time.
I know them long time. I know them back before the year 2000. And Inland Firearms and SWAT Fuel and Duracoat and so forth. Well, we went over to the High Point booth, and we were talking to those guys over there. Now, Jared, this answer the question here. It says, I noticed, where did that come from? Did that come from the social media?
Page, yeah.
The Facebook page?
They sent it in a message.
It said,
there's a dude that just, I guess, wanted your advice. I don't remember. I put this in there like a week ago.
It says, I noticed in Morning Mindset videos you have a High Point poster behind you. I owned a High Point for less than a week and did not like it because it was bulky and inaccurate. Okay, bulky, yes. They just are. That's the way they're made. And they're made that way on purpose because they're made to be really super inexpensive guns. Inaccurate? I don't know about that. What is your definition of inaccurate? I mean, You can't compete in a bullseye match with it. You can't, go to Camp Perry and win a gold medal or a trophy with it. Problem.
You know what you should do? You know what I should do?
What
somebody
should you
do? Somebody at Student of the Gun should do is go run a competition with a high point gun.
Well, it's been done.
I think that by who? By you?
No, not by me, but I've seen videos of people running IDPA matches with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, just because it's one of those just because things. Oh, why? Because I can. That's why. Oh, you know what? This is America, and you don't have to buy anything you want. You don't have to own anything you want. And if you've got disposable income, and you can buy the latest, what is Centurion? Is that what their SIG is selling? Their big line? Is it the Centurion line? I'm thinking it's something like that. I know, our Spartan, Centurion, whatever. If you can afford the latest SIG, the latest Glock, the latest, Kimber, whatsoever, heck, if you can afford a Wilson Combat pistol because you have that kind of disposable income, rock on, man. RTFO, get it. But the high point is there for a reason. It's there because not everybody on planet Earth can afford a Wilson Combat or even a SIG or even a Glock. Or let's say somebody has a grand total of $300 of disposable income money that they've squirreled away to buy a gun. And you say, well, come on, Paul, $300 is nothing. Well, $300 is a lot to people that are living on a fixed income. So does that person deserve to have a gun? And it may not be your cup of tea. And that's cool. There are guns that aren't my cup of tea. But I wouldn't begrudge you owning it. Now, there are guns out there that are just, over the years, have been just crap.
Yeah.
But, that's the way it is. Live and learn. But I will tell you this. When it comes to accuracy versus functionality, go for functionality first. It doesn't do you any good if you're going to buy a defensive handgun that can shoot a half MOA group, but it'll only cycle the one kind of really super expensive premium ammunition. The high point will cycle every ammunition. Well, I'll tell you this. Over the years, I've tried out several different calibers of high points. The 380, the 9, the 40, 45. I've tried them, and I've defaulted back to just the 9mm. I don't even fart around with any other stuff. But actually, you want to talk about the carbine, the 380 carbine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's very cool. I was talking to my friend Charles Brown. We call him Charlie Brown. And no, he does not have a girlfriend named Lucy. Or, no, Lucy wasn't his girlfriend. She was his nemesis. But anyway, talking to Charlie, and everybody who's listening to me probably knows that High Point has carbines, and that the carbines are built around, or they're built to accept the same magazines as the pistols. So a 9mm accepts the 9mm magazines for the pistol, and so on and so forth. Well, they just did a 380, and initially people were like, that's stupid, and why would you do that? Because nobody wants that. Okay. How many people in the United States of America today have gone out and bought 380 pocket guns? You're like, well, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. From the year 2012 to the year 2014, or maybe 2011 or 10, they literally could not make Ruger LCPs and Keltec pocket 380s and Car pocket 380s and Star and everybody else, or what's that one? SCC. Does SCCY make a 380? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. My point is this. For probably 3 years, the Pocket 380 was the most popular concealed carry handgun on the market. Everybody had one. Every manufacturer had one. And a lot of people went out. A lot of your friends and neighbors and coworkers said they went down to the store, and they were new gun owners. They never owned a gun, but for some reason, they got the bug and are like, I need to have a gun. I need to have a 380. All right, and they don't even say I need to have a 380. I need to have a gun that I can hide on me. I can put in a pocket or whatever. And where did they gravitate to? You and I both know that they gravitated to the Keltec or the Ruger or the whatever The Diamondback. The Diamondback 380, for all of you haters out there, is a fine little gun. The Car 380, I had a Car 380 several years ago to test out, and I didn't have any problems with it. I shot the snot out of that gun. And now Glock's got one. The Glock 42 is a freaking 380. Well, what's your point, Paul? Get to the point. My point is this. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people that went out and all they bought was a 380 pistol. That was it. They're not like you. Now, you're listening to me, and you probably have 20 pistols and 20 different calibers, and you got from 22 all the way up to 44 Magnum and everything in between. But a lot of your friends and neighbors went out and they bought a 380 pistol, and they bought ammunition to go with the 380 pistol, and that's all they got. Wouldn't it be cool if those people could get a carbine, a long gun that was chambered in the same cartridge as the pocket pistols that they have?
That would be
how much fun would your friend Bob, who 2 years ago he went and bought a Ruger LCP just because he felt like he needed to have a gun, and so he bought one and he bought ammo for it, and now he's got it. But he's not really a gun guy. He's not really a shooter. He just bought it so he could have it. And you say, dude, for a few $100, you can buy one of these 380s and use the same ammo you use for your pocket gun. Let's go out and let's shoot it. And I tell you what, you get that dude or that chick. How many women went out and bought LCPs, shot them 5 times, and then traded them for LCRs? But that's a totally different story. How many of them did that? And you're like, I don't know, Paul. Let me tell you what. Your cousin Fred, your coworker Bob, whatever. All these people that bought pocket 380s, but they don't really shoot. They're not really shooters or whatever. Put one of those 380 carbines in their hands. Those turkeys will get out and they will have such a fun time. They're going to want to shoot more. They're going to want to buy new guns. They're going to want to get more involved. Because, let's face it, it's not really – pocket 380s are not fun to shoot. I mean – Jared, do you know any pocket 380s that are like fun to shoot?
No.
Then they're not really designed to be quote unquote fun, enjoyable.
I mean, comparatively. If that was the only thing I had to shoot, I could have fun with it.
Right.
But I've got other stuff that I could shoot, so no, that's not really that fun.
So when Charlie said that, I was like, dude, that is a really smart, intelligent way to look at that. And I believe right now, on planet Earth, that they're the only ones making a 380 carbine. And one more thing about High Point, and then I'll let it go, and we'll move on with our lives. They have a 20-round magazine, a 20-round 9mm magazine for all of you crybabies. They're like, well, I like I kind of like that High Point carbine, but it only holds 10 rounds, so I'm not going to buy one. Well, now they have a 20-round extended magazine. And we were kidding. We were in the booth. We're like, they should engrave on the side of that magazine. Now, what are you going to complain about?
People will always find something to complain about.
Well, let's congratulate our buddy James Shields. James, as you guys know, won and your listeners, right? So you guys know that he actually was the proud recipient of the Inland Manufacturing 1945 30 carbine, right? Well, a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people who don't listen to the show, people that are in the world, right, and they're gun people and they're NRA members and so forth, well, they didn't know that because for some weird, strange reason, they're not paying attention to student of the gun. I don't know why that would be. Jared, do you find that strange that there are people that own guns that don't know about us?
That is very strange.
It's just wrong.
I haven't quite figured it out.
You know why it's wrong? Because you aren't telling your friends and neighbors about it. But no.
Joe Terrell is.
Yeah, that's right. Joe Terrell is. So anyway, James was at the NRA. He was at the meeting, and we said, well, you know what would be fun? Let's go ahead and all of us, me, Jared, the whole crew, Charlie, and the crew from Inland, let's all get together in the booth on Saturday morning, and let's do kind of a formal presentation, because we didn't really have a formal presentation. The way it worked is he won, and they, they sent him one to his FFL, and he went out and shot it. It was all good, but there was nothing real. It's kind of like if you won the Super Bowl and they just put the trophy in a UPS package and shipped it to you.
Yeah.
So we got together. We had a kind of a student of the gun get together on Saturday morning in the Inland booth, and Charlie actually it was a formal presentation, I guess you could say. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It was a formal presentation, and a lot of you guys came out. A lot of you turned out. Let me tell you what, the people at Inland and High Point, and it was like a huge booth over in the one corner there. They were blown away. They were blown away. You guys came, and we had a good time. We spent about an hour or so looking at products, and Inland has a M37 12-gauge trench gun, which actually does have a bayonet lug on, and you can indeed put an M1917 21-inch bayonet. You know how long that bayonet is? 21 inches long.
Wow.
I think it's including the handle, but that's pretty good.
I was going to make a bayonet joke, like a bat joke, but
no more of those.
We're not on the grad program.
Yeah, exactly. But I've got one of those in my hot little hands. As a matter of fact, I picked it up, the trench gun. I picked it up right before we left for NRA, so I haven't even put a round through it yet. It's in my possession, but I haven't shot it yet.
I do want to take a moment to say that I do apologize to those of you that let your wives listen to the grad program. I apologize for some of the things that I said.
Now, Jared, there are new listeners, and we know that. And we ran into somebody at NRA who said, well, I want to thank you for Student of the Gun, and I was wrong, but that little girl came on the radio, and she said to me that I needed to fix myself.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a free training video series called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. We want you to have access to this life-saving information. Get instant access now at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of those questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
And there you go. And that is the lovely Miss Alex, who reminds you that we don't just have a radio show. We have a television show. We write. I write things. Did you know I write things?
Do you write things?
I write things sometimes. Every once in a while, I write something down.
Holy cow.
And it's important. Now, before we go, I want you guys to make sure that you're going over to Brownells.com and make sure you're signed up for their list, like we talked about with Crossbreed earlier. Brownells constantly puts out specials and deals and sales and what have you. But let me tell you what, if they're putting out a sale on ammo or magazines or whatever, it goes fast. So if you find out 3 or 4 days later, you may be too late. So make sure that you're on the Brownells mailing list. And Duracoat, because life is too short to have an ugly gun. And I think, Jared, we have them convinced that by this time next year, they will have slightly darker black.
Yes, they're going to have slightly darker black and also gun tattoos.
Gun tattoos at the NRA annual meeting.
You know, it's kind of funny. As we're talking about this, I got a notification from Duracoat Firearm Finishes on Facebook. It says they tagged Student of the Gun in a comment, and the comment was to Charles Burgett, giving his sincere gratitude for the support of Student of the Gun.
Oh, crap. What are they going to do?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey,
yeah, tell everyone what Duracoat's going to do.
Yes. For those of you that know, have we talked about that yet, this show?
No. We haven't talked about, because we've been talking about the Student of the Gun tattoo contest.
The gun tattoo contest.
But we told Steve and the guys at the show what we were doing. Did we talk
about the gun tattoo contest?
No.
Okay, so the gun tattoo contest that we're running. Get a gun tattoo from Duracoat, and you can go to the Student of the Gun mobile app and tap on the gun tat tab and get it from there, or you can just go to LauerWeaponry.com if that's easier for you. Pick up the Student of the Gun tattoo. Do something with it. Be creative.
Do a project.
A project with Duracoat and the gun tattoo. I was just looking at the pimp cane over there, the sledgehammer. That needs to say Student of the Gun on the handle. But anyway, so go there, do that. Do a project, post it on social media of some sort. Use the hashtag, that's the pound symbol, Student for Life, Student FORLIFE. And if we pick you, as the most creative or the most inspiring. We're going to bring you on the radio show. You're going to tell us about the project. And we were talking to the guys at Duracoat. I was actually talking to Mike and Debbie, and she was saying, why don't we just give them something? So Duracoat is going to come up with a package to give you, and I believe it's probably going to be a Duracoating kit. So if you come on the radio because of the Duracoat Gun Tattoo Project, Duracoat is, in addition to getting to tell everybody about it here, Duracoat's going to send you something cool.
They're going to give you a special gift. How cool is that? All right, well, that brings us right to the end of Wednesday's show, ladies and gentlemen. But fear not. I know you should be fearless if you're listening to us. We will be back tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to talk, well, it's Thursday, so we're going to have a Student of the Gun homeroom segment, but we're going to continue with our conversation about the NRA annual meeting and exhibits and what we did and who we saw and all that good stuff. So stay tuned, hippies, and we will talk to you mañana.
What are they supposed to remember?
That they're a student for life.
You're a beginner once, but you should be a
student for life.